Thanks for joining this edition of the Compliance Compass. Today, we're going to talk about revenue cycle compliance. Now, ordinarily, when we talk about this topic, we think in broad terms like medical necessity, billing and coding correctly, and a few other things. However, today we're going to address actually many of the, what I would say, more finer nuances in revenue cycle compliance. But first, let's take a moment to actually define revenue cycle itself. I know when I think of revenue cycle, actually being a former CFO, I think of the pre-registration and verification process, actual registration, providing services, the coding, charge capture, ultimately bill and claim submission, and processing the remittance and payments, denials management, and of course, patient collections and final payment. Now, I often say one of the most important non-caring given positions in any healthcare organization is actually the registrar or patient access, as some like to refer to. If you get a patient's name, address, insurance information, social security number, if you get any of those wrong, it can cause a downstream effect that at best can delay your reimbursement. But at worst, in some cases, actually cause you to not get any of the reimbursement at all. So in the registration process, is their staff well trained? Do you monitor and audit their activity and the registrations? What about denial management, patient information? Well, once you've registered a patient and provided services, coding and charge capture are critical. You may not realize this, but a good compliance program is focused on accuracy, not just catching an account that's been over or upcoded. An effective compliance program will identify all inaccuracy, including when you haven't captured all the charges for the services you provided. Because in those cases, if you haven't captured all those charges, you actually could be getting lower in reimbursement than you're entitled to. Is your compliance team a partner in identifying those opportunities and participating in the process improvement with the other teams, or are you just the police that finds overpayments? When you actually submit claims, are they correct? If not, do you track denials? Do you know that it can be considered fraud to rebill a claim over and over, trying to get it ultimately accepted by a government payer? Denial management is a great tool, and it really helps you accomplish three objectives. You can identify potential compliance trends, you can identify opportunities for improvement, or you can even identify when a payer is not behaving appropriately according to your contract with them. All three of these are positive to the organization. But if the compliance team is not regularly interacting with those involved in denial management, you're missing a real opportunity to partner with your revenue cycle team members. So then we go to patient collections, ultimately the patient balance. That can also have compliance issues, especially if it's involved government payers. Have you obtained an ABN or advanced beneficiary notice so that you can bill a patient for a non-covered service? Or if a patient's paid, has it already been written off as bad debt and it was actually claimed on a cost report? Do you follow the right process to handle that? What about regulatory rules and the collection process itself and how you contact a patient? While accurate coding and billing is a major component of revenue cycle compliance, there are many other landmines that you really have to be aware of. And I think we've demonstrated today, just in this brief conversation, that there's compliance issues really throughout the process. However, I do have one tidbit before I go that I want to share. In my experience, I've seen this time and time again. Revenue cycle issues are identified, they always will be. But a strong collaborative team has never been formed to address them. Instead, what happens is there's this temptation to fix it on the back end. After all, coders and billers often are incentivized on the volume of the work. Therefore, any delay in order to schedule meetings with providers or staff, it really can hurt their personal goals. So the number one rule when identifying an issue is to first stop the bleeding, so to speak. So I implore you to not try to fix these on the back end, but really find the source of the issue. You cannot do that in a siloed vacuum, but rather you have to do it through a multidisciplinary team approach. Till next time, this is Chris Coleman. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Compliance Compass.